Does the alphabet soup after your name help you at all when it comes to advancing your career? With now almost 15% of our profession having some sort of certification after their name, it comes into question, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth it for you to take all of this time, energy, and money just to add an alphabet letters after your name on LinkedIn or your resume? Well, in this video, I want to talk about certificates. I want to talk about their value, when it's worth it, when potentially it may be in question, and when it's definitely not worth it. Let's get into it. According to the Board of Specialty Pharmacies, they provide the majority of certificates in our profession, with now around 50,000 people certified. And that number seems to be growing every single year, particularly because of the residency pipeline. Approximately just under 5,000 new residents come into the profession, and many of them go through what I would call an indoctrination process to say, like, hey, your residency isn't enough clinical training. You need this certificate after your name to ensure that you're actually board certified to do clinical pharmacy. But it can be helpful in certain circumstances. I'm going to put a link below to an assessment that we created to help you discern whether or not it's worth the time and investment. If you're going through a residency program, you may as well commit yourself to the extra time. Residency is a year or two of your life where you're dedicating a lot more time than the average person to developing your skills, learning clinical practice, and ultimately helping improve patient care. And it can be worth it. Your life maybe hasn't started. You don't have kids yet. Maybe you don't have a romantic partner. Sure, put in the extra time. It makes sense in those circumstances, especially if the organization is paying for it. That's a great circumstance. Now, I think where it doesn't pay off is if you actually don't have experience doing the thing that you're certified for. There are, and I won't call out names, certain organizations that currently exist that provide certificates to verify that you understand things about different professions. I won't say which ones. If there is no bar to say, like, you need X amount of hours doing this practice, diabetes, clinical pharmacy, a residency, whatever, then what is the point? It's really just that you've taken an exam maybe, and you've taken a class. I know firsthand managers who say to me, if I see this certificate after someone's name, I know that it's not worth anything. But I think overall, the Board of Pharmacy Specialties is probably the gold standard for any kind of certificate. But let's be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're really saying is that when you get a certificate, it means that you've taken a test, you've passed it, and you probably have verified hours of practice within a certain field. That's all it really is. If you can't do that with whatever certificate that you're pursuing, it's really not worth its weight in anything. It means that maybe you've passed a test. And I think we all can accept at the end of the day that passing a test is really one of the lowest forms of learning. If I were to look at your resume and it has a BCPS certificate on it, versus if I was to look at a pharmacist who maybe worked in the hospital for a few years and then worked his way into a clinical setting, and he's been practicing and he includes all of the clinical outcomes and changes and metrics over the span of his career that he has influenced, well, that's going to be a whole lot better on a resume than just saying something like BCPS. Just adding a degree, just adding education, the alphabet letters, unless you can back it up with evidence that you've done something with it, it really doesn't mean anything at all. It means you know some information, maybe you can practice, maybe we can trust you with it, as long as you maintain it. Look, the cost of taking the test, getting the exam prep, the amount of time that you have to take, it's like hundreds of, or at least 100 hours of CE over a span of like 5 or 7 years, depending on what exam that you've passed or what specialty you have. And you have to pay for those things unless your company pays for it. You're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of at least $10,000 over the span of your career. Now, some companies will pay you more. The Veteran Affairs, as an example, once you get certified, you get about, I think it's like a $600 or $800 a year increase. So $60 a month. Woo! Now, don't hear me wrong. I think it is great to expand your knowledge, to push yourself, to learn new things, and to validate through an exam that you have an expertise on a subject. But you don't need that to advance your career. That is certainly what the marketing of all certificate programs and advanced education wants to communicate to you. Take this and your career will be easier. And there certainly are stories of people who take the exam and that's what helped them got their first interview. I think it also communicates, if you're doing this to an employer, that you are trying to advance your skills and your practice. You are setting yourself above, different, unique to your competition. I think it is a good thing in general. But I want to address the core issue that I think even allows certificates to exist, and it's imposter syndrome. The fact that the majority of new board certified practitioners comes from residents, I think is far enough evidence to showcase this. We have new practitioners coming up who believe that they're not good enough to practice clinical pharmacy. And so to validate that they have that information, that they're good enough, well, then they pass this test. When in actuality, the residency training in and of itself validates them as a clinical pharmacist that can practice in any setting that they got the training in. Now, there is push and pull here. I'm on one side of the aisle, but of course, I'm willing to be wrong on this. I think certificates can be great. I think they are, any kind of advancement of your skills is a good thing. But at the end of the day, it is subjective. And what's the best situation is when you're in a career path, you enjoy it, you like it, and your company is willing to pay for the education, the training, and the exam. That's when it's totally worth it to pursue because it's a transferable skill. It's something that you can take into your next career as long as you maintain the license or the certificate. But please don't believe that at the end of the day, if you take this certificate, that all of your problems will go away and all of a sudden every employer will take notice of you. It's not how it works. It's about what you accomplish at the end of the day. Because if you just take this certificate and you don't do something with it, it's about as worthless to you as alphabet soup. Pursue the skills that you want to develop. Get curious about the profession and the problems that exist. And heck, if you love a specialty, if you love specialty pharmacy, if you love clinical, ambulatory care, whatever it is, if you love it so much and you want to be an expert at it, go for it. Challenge yourself. When you become the best in the world at something, you don't have to worry about where your next opportunity is going to come from. People pursue you. And certificates can be on the road to that, but it's certainly not a necessity. It's a great option, but don't fool yourself into thinking that you will be good enough once you're certified. Those are my thoughts on certificates. It's a great thing with caveats, and I hope you understand it, but let me know if you agree or disagree. I think a lot of people who have certificates are probably going to disagree with me ever so slightly or maybe much. But if you agree with me, let me know what your experience has been. Either way, I hope you stay curious about pharmacy, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.